Clemente joined the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority in January of 2006, bringing with him a multidisciplinary background, local knowledge, and an unparalleled amount of enthusiasm to living the dream and carrying it out well. So Ralph can access his job by skateboard, bike, foot, or never Uber at this point, I think. But, and driving every once in a while. With experience in land use and transportation planning, human scale design, SEPTED, and project management, Ralph has used his skills to find solutions to challenges in ways that have carried downtown West Palm Beach towards its long-term goal of economic growth and high-quality life for residents. Since being named the executive director, Raphael has guided the DDA to some particularly noteworthy successes, as we see that as we actually approach City Hall from any of the parking areas. It's a condition that really has become one of the most walkable locations in the county, in the region. These include the formation of an arts and entertainment district, a new streetscape project for Clemente Street, recently named as one of America's great streets, by the way, the recruitment of dozens of new businesses to the downtown, and securing private funding for a bike sharing program serving the entire downtown area. So, great successes, and Raphael, pass the mic to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see so many people. It's good to see so many people like that here today. It's exciting that we are all working toward a common goal of making communities better for everyone. So I have to say I kind of struggled with this presentation. When I originally shot it over to Kim yesterday, it was about 40 slides. But really, I want to set some ground rules first and remind us that what we do as professionals, we get caught on the built form, we get caught on transportation systems and infrastructure and all those very important things, but at the end of the day, we're building for people. We're planning for people. We're building communities for people. I was just in Pennsylvania. I was in Lancaster, in Philly and Lancaster. I was visiting my father, and I went out for a big run around Lancaster, PA, and I shot this photo Sunday morning around 11 a.m. of a community in their neighborhood setting up a picnic in an alleyway. And it made a point to me about the fact that this wasn't the place that you would traditionally think of holding a picnic. But this is where this neighborhood decided they were going to have their community picnic because it was a place that had a certain character and quality that connected with them. And it really spoke to me because it's really a street. It's actually not even a street, it's a back of house to all the businesses in their residential properties. So, more ground rules about the human factor of what we do as professionals. People, invariably, across societies and across economic range, and across cultural desires or cultural preferences, there are certain things we all like and certain things we don't like. We want experience, we want texture, we want sensory stimulation, and we love being around other people. These are really important things to keep in mind. And from that 30,000-foot planning perspective, these are some of the biggest challenges that are going to face our city. It's facing them now, in fact. Transportation, employment, and population growth. At the top of that, transportation in particular is something that South Florida is really grappling with. So, the concept of place and the concept of creating good places, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I want you to think of place not as a geographic location, but as a concept. What is a good place? So all those descriptors, you've got that big orange ring there, sociability, uses, comfort and image, access and linkages. These are all the big ideas, things that we can sort of plan for and design around. But that middle ring, that greenish colored ring, has all these descriptive words about a place. If people are using those words to describe your place, in general, you've done a good job. The outer corners in blue are things that we use to measure the success, hopefully, of those places. So when we look at development patterns, and this is somewhere in western Palm Beach County, and if you drop a roughly 1 square mile shape around that PUD, you've got about 300 or 400 residential units, maybe a clubhouse in there, probably a golf club. A lot of privatized space, privatized pools, privatized yards, a mixing of people unless you play golf. I don't play golf. I would probably go on those golf courses to fish in the lakes, get yelled at. But there's not a lot of mixing there unless you're on the golf course. It's a very much a private, inward community, and probably a relatively homogeneous community. If you drop that exact same box on downtown West Palm Beach, I just checked with our planning director, 6,742 residential units, hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial uses, offices, businesses, activities, transit systems. You have a lot of opportunity for mixing of people. And I'll get to why this is really important from an economic and social perspective. But in this, what I like to call the magic triangle, the intersection of public and private is a really important space. This exists in urban places or denser places or places with traditional development patterns. And these nodes can be built. I don't think we can go retrofit every suburban intersection. I don't think that. But I do think that we can do a better job of creating mixed use, more urban patterns, even in suburban zones. I think we can do a much better job than we've done. And we can go back and maybe fix what's been built. But in this mixing zone, the intersection of public and private, a lot of very important things happen. Jobs happen, social interactions happen, connections happen, mobility happens, economic mobility happens in this mixing zone. The cost of these development patterns. So we've done some work recently with Joe Minicozy. If you know, some of you probably worked with Joe. If you don't know Joe, he's with a company called Urban 3. And Urban 3 does really deep dive analysis of costs and benefits, land use patterns, etc. using GIS. Joe's up in Asheville now. He's king of Asheville right now, Joe Minicozy. So this is an excerpt from a study that was done. It was the most recent stuff that we could find that really nailed costs, external public costs for development patterns. And this was in Florida, I think in Tampa. I'm not exactly sure. I think in Tampa. So downtown compact development, external cost to the public, just shy of $10,000. The most sprawling type of development, over $20,000. By the way, this data is from like the early 90s. So it's a big difference now. What does this turn into over time for communities, for the public coffers and for all those people that are going to be paying the taxes on these properties? So a comparison study was done. This was with Urban 3 with Joe's company over in Sarasota. Downtown development, a 197 unit project compared to a 357 unit project out west. Joe just applied a multiplier to those 197 units to scale it up to be equal to 357 units, and here's what they learned. I won't go over every single point, but the light green is the sprawling development, the dark green is the compact urban development. The costs versus revenues off of this type of development are mind-boggling, right? Truly mind-boggling. Look at payback period in years. If you can see it, it's the second column from the right. And if you bring it over to sum it up, at 20 years, that compact development yields $33 million to the public. The sprawl costs $5 million. So this is a big, big conversation to have when we look at the wealth of communities and the ability of municipal governments to fund better stuff for people. If we are just servicing sprawl, we're going to lose. We're losing a lot of money and a lot of opportunities. And that's just the numbers. That's just the cost. So we did this for Palm Beach County. Joe pulled a bunch of data from the property appraiser's office and just crunched it, just ran it through a database, through a GIS program. Cost per acre, value, I should say, value per acre, assessed tax value per acre of different development patterns. And we learned some obvious stuff, but we learned some pretty shocking stuff too. And if anybody wants this, I've got it all, I'll give it to you. It's public, I'll give it to you. It's really, really powerful. We were a little surprised to see that IBIS was only tax yield per acre at $2,647 per acre. My little neighborhood of Grandview Heights rocked IBIS at $7,000 per acre. Go Grandview. There's a lot of planners in Grandview. We're smart to be there. But what was maybe even more surprising is we took an average suburban development like Riverwalk and we compared it to some other development patterns in some other areas of the city. This one really blew me away, was that almost blighted properties in the Northwest neighborhood yielding significantly more than Riverwalk. So if you can't see those numbers, Riverwalk's yielding $380,000 per acre. Northwest shotgun houses at $618,000 per acre. Commercial property, Walmart at $644,000 per acre, and this is per acre value, not total for the whole project. Howley's, Havana, 1.2 and 1.4 million per acre. And these are not exceptionally dense, but they are in compact, walkable, transit accessible neighborhoods. Jobs. We heard a lot about jobs so far this morning. Jobs are growing rapidly in urban cores, particularly among the fabled millennial population. Young people with college degrees, where do they want to be? They want to be in dense, walkable neighborhoods. They want authenticity. They want beer. They want coffee. They want to ride their fixie bikes everywhere. Right, go fixies. Any fixie riders here? Yeah, Nelson. No? City Observatory, which is a project funded by the Knight Foundation, they took a bunch of data sets from the American Community Survey, and just like Joe did, they crunched the numbers. What they learned about job growth among millennials, this is where people are moving to, and this is millennials. People 34 to, 21 to 34, 25 to 34 with a college degree. Twice as fast, that segment of our population are moving into close-in neighborhoods within a 3-mile radius of an urban core. These are people looking for jobs. They choose place first, predominantly. They want that experience, and the job creators know that. Corporate entities are relocating from suburban office parks into urban centers rapidly right now. And so it's a chicken and egg, right? And we're not really sure yet who comes first. Do the millennials go into the places and use that term place as being the concept of place, going to good quality places, draw the jobs, or are those jobs drawing them there? It's an upward spiral. Social impacts, and this is one that has been really weighing heavily on my mind as we look at the challenges our city faces. The edge of our downtown here has the Northwest neighborhood, which we've been looking for many ways to integrate better with. Good things are happening there, some really good things, but nonetheless, social segregation, if you want to call it that, is a major issue. Sprawling patterns of development versus density exacerbate that, and I'll show you how. So, middle-income neighborhoods declining, right? Again, a type of mixing zone where people are sharing space, sharing neighborhoods, sharing their lives effectively with others. In fact, in this same study, the American Community Survey found that between 1970 and today, people spend far less time with their neighbors. Levels of trust continue to decline, and this not only erodes economic mobility, but this also erodes social engagement. People vote less, they trust less, they're not involved in the process of democracy and community. This sounds like really high-level stuff, but it's really important stuff, and it's in many ways affected by the design of our cities and communities. So you can see that between 1972 and 2012, the gap between people saying you can't be too careful and most people can be trusted has widened. Few people are trusting their neighbors, fewer people. So economic mobility is a person's ability to be born into a certain economic status and be able to move, ideally up, from, if you're born into poverty, can you get out of poverty? The American dream, I'm sure many of us in our room have those stories in our families. I certainly do. Segregation and income equality are the biggest limiting factors to economic mobility. This is a challenge for cities because as we look at jobs, as we look at education attainment, as we look at crime rates, these things are playing bedrock roles, completely changing the way our society is functioning. So getting back to that concept of place and thinking about how communities affect jobs, economic opportunity, social structure, and all the things that come with that, this gets a little more clear about the quality of place and how that plays into what our cities are doing. So to boil it down and summarize it, place attracts talent, talent drives economic development, and when you combine those two, you create opportunity for people. And I had to throw this slide in because I think about opportunity a lot. And those are my two goals.